Hey everyone, this is the first part of a live stream series that we're going to be doing to basically create a system for a small company, for a small business. So the idea here is to have like all the parts that you need to manage a small business. So maybe you're a marketing agency, maybe you're a consultant, maybe you're a small software developer. So the idea here is that we're going to create the structure that you need to have all the parts of the company that you usually have to manage, right? So maybe it's regarding finance, so you have payables and receivables. You have to manage clients and vendors. Maybe it's the CRM. You want to track your opportunities and be more efficient at sales. Maybe it's the marketing part. You want to have content management, or maybe track ads and know how much you're spending, so you can kind of have like metrics like return over investment or the cost per acquisition and so on. So the idea here is that we're going to build all of these structures and unify them in a single app, right? So this is what we're going to be doing. This is not specifically a let's build the CRM first, let's build the finance part first. This is kind of like a let's think about all of the structures that we need, and we're going to create the structures as we go, right? So, to start things off, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new blank page, a new blank app, which is basically going to be my home page, right? So if what I'm doing here is creating an app for all of the processes in the company, from HR to finance to sales and so on. I'm going to create this page. So this is the central part, the central page of the app. You can think of this as the home page, right? So let's go with home page. We can change this name later, right? And we're just going to edit and add an icon here, right? We can change the colors later as well. There you go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to customize this page's colors, because by default, Jestor will create a page in dark mode, but I want light mode for this app, so I'm going to change the color and I'm going to disable page scrolling. What this does is the page is always going to have the same page, is the same size regardless of screen monitor size. So you won't have components that are scrolling down on the page, right? So I'm going to activate this toggle, and I'm going to create a menu bar, and this is going to be the main navigation feature, the main menu of the app, right? So I'm going to call this SMB, just SMB for now. There you go. And I'm going to make the menu white. And I'm going to remove the favorites. And what I'm going to do now is just create a folder called databases. And also I'm going to create one called app. So the app part is going to contain my homepage. So I just drag them like this. So homepage is between the start and the end of the app folder. There you go. And right now I don't have any databases yet. I haven't created anything yet. So I'm just going to leave this blank, but the structure is here, right? We also have the system shortcuts down here. I don't want them right now. In some processes, it may be it might make sense to have some shortcuts here. For example, if I were making a very specific app in which I had to upload a lot of data from spreadsheets, maybe I could leave upload data here. So I have this handy little shortcut, but I don't want anything down here because I don't need it yet, right? So let's click on save. And just so there's nothing here at all, I'm just going to create a text block here, and I'm going to just add some tests. So this is the home page of the app. So it's going to be here. And let's see, this is going to be a header. There you go. So I'm just going to leave this here, right? Just so it's not empty, right? So this is the homepage. Right now, we don't have like anything yet. We're going to start building now. But what we've already done is we've done is creating a menu for navigation and having a center app, a home app, right? So now what we're going to do is let's think about the structures that we need in our company. And this is something that we'll be doing as we go, right? We're not going to create everything right now. But if I were to create the very basics of the things that I want to manage in this app, it would probably be I should probably have a database for clients, a database for vendors, and I could also probably create tables for payables and receivables, right? Because those are very basic structures, and later on, we're going to have other apps that feed into those structures or pull data from those structures. So, for example, if I have a CRM, as soon as I have a close a deal, like if I move an opportunity to the stage one, I will probably register that lead as a client, and I'm probably also going to automatically want to automatically create a receivable linked to that client. So I should already have those structures in place. And if I had like a part for procurement, I want to have a database of vendors. So those four structures seem like things that I want to have as the very foundation of my app, right? So I'm going to click here and I'm going to create a new blank table. There you go. One thing that I'm also going to do, I'm going to open this in a new tab, right? The homepage, and I'm going to pin this to my favorites, so I always have easy access, right? But let's start. So we're going to have a clients table, and I'm going to call this clients SMB, just so it's a little bit easier for me to find this later, because I probably already have some table named clients in this account. So this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to find this later. Let me just favorite this, and it's going to be pinned right here. Okay. So if I think about the data structure of the client's database, I have the title, which is basically the name of the client, right? So I'm going to rename this as name. And there are other kinds of information that I may want to put here. So I could have a field for observations, and I'm going to make this a rich text field so I can format the text. I should probably have a email field for contact information. I can also have a phone field for contact information. And maybe I want an address field, right? So this is linked to Google Maps, so it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to input the address here, because it's going to search. And I think that's it. If we want some other kind of information, oh, maybe I want the website. There you go. So I'm going to fill out some information here. So for clients, I'm going to have like Andrew Brenda and Charles. The websites, I'm going to leave it blank. So I'm just going to fill out some information just so we have it as an example here. There you go. Phone numbers. There you go. And you can see that this is connected to Google Maps, right? So I could have like Washington, and I could search for the address. But I'm not going to use this right now. It's just here so you guys can see how it looks like. So cool. This is going to be our client's database for now. We could have some more information, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to add too much information here. And now we want a vendors database, and the vendors database is probably going to look a lot like this, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to click here, and we're going to, oh, sorry. Let me see. Here you go. I'm going to click on duplicate, and I'm going to clone this table. So this is going to be called vendors SMB. So the table is being duplicated. All we have to do is wait for the notification here. And it already created. There you go. It's being created, actually. So this is why it hasn't sent me a notification. So right now, all you have to do is wait for it to be created, right? So there you go. There you go. So the table clients was duplicated successfully. And if you go here, the data, the structure was cloned, right? So just let me see something. There you go. So let's just create some records here as an example. So we could have like, we had Charles, so we have Dave and Alan and let's see, Finch. And we're just going to fill out the information. So we have,
Hey everyone.
hey, so we have some information here. There you go. Cool. So we have the database for the clients and we have the database for the vendors. Now we're going to create the database for the payables and the receivables, right? So let's do payables for this one. So if we think about the structure, we have a title, which is a very short description of the payable, but we may also want to have a description field so we can have more information, observations, and so on. So if you think about the structure of a payable, we have a due date. So we're just going to name this field due date and select the format. We have a payment date. So it's not always the same date, right? Sometimes you can pay something earlier or later. So we're going to make these two separate dates. You have the actual amount, right? So I'm going to use a currency field here. So this is the amount to be paid. And let's see, we can have a option field for category. We're not going to have a lot of different categories here at first. So for payables, I can have like travel and let me see, appliances and let me see. For example, equipment and services. So I can just drag and drop this so we can reorder them, and there you go. So I have title, description, due date, payment date, amount, category. I'm going to add a attachment field, so we could like attach invoices and other kinds of documents as well. And now I'm going to add a connection to a vendor. So the idea here is that I'm going to be able to select a vendor from that other table. One thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort alphabetically, so it's a little bit easier to find a vendor just by scrolling on the list. And I can also customize the icon and color, right? So for vendors, I'm just going to select a person here. There you go. So let's fill out with some information here. So I'm going to select some categories here. So services, equipment, and travel. So taxi ride, monitor, accounting. So I'm just filling out some example information, right? And I forgot a very important one here, field here, which is the status, right? So I'm going to create that as well. And I'm going to use a option field for that. So status, we have pending, and paid. There you go. And I'm going to leave one as paid just to show you guys how it works. Okay, so this is the structure for payables. And now I'm going to do a similar structure for receivables.
One thing that's really important that we're doing right now is creating all this structure first. Um, if we wanted to just show you something, we would start with the app and then we would do the tables. However, creating the tables is a way for you to also think about all the information that you actually need in your process. So that's why we usually start with tables, which are a little bit more, it's not that interesting to build because it's really repetitive and so on. Also, we could build this with AI. However, we are doing it field by field and everything, just to try to show you the idea behind the process, why you should have this field and so on. And the idea here is to go step by step. show you all the features, how to apply it, and how can you actually create a complex system going field by field. So that's the idea here. That's why we are not focusing right now on creating all the visual structures, so apps and so on, because once you have the tables and the automations and so on, creating apps is pretty fast. And also, it's more interesting because now you know how many variables do you want, how your forms are going to behave, and so on. So it's less intuitive to use tables to structure your process, but you can create better processes. It's easier to create to make less mistakes if you create the tables first, and how the data connects with each, how each table connects with each other and so on. So that's why we are building these tables. We are going to build this in a way where we have a unified, for example, table for suppliers, vendors, and then another one only for clients, another table for employees. And so that's really important because, for example, clients, you're going to use this on sales. Maybe you're also going to need the client information for your receivables, as Cruz is showing here. So it's important to have one table with that's basically your source of truth for each kind of data that you have in your process. That's why we start building tables, and then later on we think about the process. You could do the opposite. Most people think it's more intuitive to just maybe start with a Kanban, and then you start like thinking, oh, on this stage I need this field, in this stage I need this field. You could also do that. It's a little bit more visual. It would be easier to understand what we're doing here. However, you need to go do something, come back, add something, and so on. And when you're building the table, the idea here is to think like you can think on stages, but it's like stage one, I need this field and this field. Stage two, this field and this field. So you just go by and add all the fields. Later on, you divide this by stage or by type or by whatever. Of course, each table should have the same kind of information. You cannot add here inside the receivable table like I don't know, something, a comment about an opportunity. It makes no sense. So it's not all the fields of your system in one table, but information that's actually in the same group of information, let's say. So here is a database for receivables. So which are the which kind of variables do you need for receivables? So we need a title, we need a due date, we need a payment date, we need an amount, and so on. And sometimes if you are used to use spreadsheets, you would add here, for example, Andrew and then Andrew's email. That's not ideal. That's why Fernando just divided this on two different tables. One for the client information and another one for receivables. If you're not used with the notion of relational databases, it's a bit confusing, but we are going to give you examples like this one just to show you how you should think about your data, how to structure it. We are going to try to build here the ideal process. Maybe you really want to have here also the email. There are other ways that we can do this, for example, the lookup field. But it's important that you understand how to think about systems and creating apps. It makes your app much better later on. It's a bit more you need to work more in the beginning, but it pays off later on.
Exactly. So I finished building the receivables table, and what I'm going to do here. So I built a clients database, a vendors database, a payables database, and a receivables database. So I'm going to go back here to my homepage, and I'm going to edit the menu here. And what I'm going to do is add those databases here. Uh, just so it's a little bit easier to work with. So if I have to edit something, I don't have to search for them. They're already on the menu, right? So payables and receivables. There you go. And they're in this databases folder, right? So I'm going to save. And now I can see here that I can just cycle between them. There you go. So if I needed to change anything, all I would have to do is click here and activate the building mode and editing the table, right? So those are our core foundational tables for today. So we're not going to build more tables today. We're going to focus on what we already have. Like I said, these tables are going to be important because other processes are going to feed into those tables or pull information from those tables. So, for example, the CRM, if I have an opportunity and I close a deal, I probably am going to create a client automatically. I'm going to create a receivable automatically. If I had like a procurement app or reimbursement requests, I'm going to probably want to be able to create payables automatically from those processes. So you can see that those other processes are going to be using those tables as well. This is why I'm saying they are kind of foundational for this first part of the app. But if we look at them, we can kind of already see that we already have probably an app that we can start building with these tables here, which is an app to manage the finances, right? So if I wanted to have a list of expenses and of receivables, and if I wanted to see a calendar, seeing things that I have to pay today, for example, I can already keep track of that. I can already have an app for that as well. So I'm going to start doing it. So I'm going to click here and click here on new blank app. And I'm going to create a page that I'm going to call finance. And I'm going to change the icon color and the color and the icon. So for the color, let me see, for the icon, I'm going to get this one of money, right? And for the color, I'm going to get a green. So there you go. Or maybe actually, I think I always use green for finance. People use blue a lot for finance as well. So I'm going to do blue today. There you go. And I'm going to customize the let me see here. There you go. So I'm going to make this into a light mode. There you go. Okay, so this is going to be the main part of the finance app. I'm already going to put some things here. So for example, I can have a calendar of payables and a calendar for receivables. We're going to change this later as well, right? So we're going to make this into a more detailed dashboard. But I'm just going to create the calendars right now, just so we have some information here. So it's not like just a blank page, right? And the date that I'm going to monitor in this calendar is the due date of the receivables. And I only want to see receivables which are status is equal to pending. So I don't want to see things that I've already received in this calendar, because maybe if it's a lot of records, it's going to like pollute the view. So I'm going to add this filter, and for the form, I'm going to use the default table form. So there you go. Uh, There you go. You can see that I have a calendar for the receivables, and I'm going to add a calendar for the payables as well. So this is going to be payables. And I'm also going to monitor due dates and add a filter for only things which have status is equal to pending, right? There you go. So this is the main page of my finance app. Okay, so now I'm going to add a new page in which I'm going to have a list of payables, receivables, and then I'm also going to have a list for vendors and clients. And why are we doing a separate page, app page, if we already have the tables? Because with the app page I can have some other features like conditional colors, and I can also have different sorts of navigation features. So you're going to see what I mean by that. I'm going to customize this further. So I'm going to call this payables SMB as well. I'm going to customize this. There you go. So now I'm going to create a table component, and the table component basically pulls information from a database that I've already created, right? So the database that I'm going to use here is the payables database, right? So I'm going to select that. There you go. And I have to select the fields of information that I want to see and the order, right? So I have title, I have a description, I have a, I'm going to select category and vendor first. There you go. Then due date, payment date, amount, attachments, and status. So it's basically all the information that I've created beforehand, right? So this is kind of like you guys probably, just let me refresh this. But you guys will be able to see that this is all just the information and structure that I've created before. But the reason that I'm doing this as a separate page app is just so you guys can see, we have some other features here. For example, one thing that I can do here is always sort by the due date, and I'm going to sort them by having the things more in the future first, right? So the more recent payments, payables, are going to be here right up top, and older ones are going to be on the bottom. I can also have some styling settings here. So for example, I can remove these icons for the fields, right? Usually they're not very important information. I can already look at the title of the field and know what kind of field it is. I can remove the grid lines so it looks less like a grid, less like a spreadsheet, and more like a table. And I can remove the borders, as you can see here, but I like to leave the borders on in this type of scenario because it kind of shows the size of the table a little bit better. One thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a conditional here, so that things that are pending and the due date is in the past will show as red, so I know that that is outstanding, right? So I have this visual cue that was already supposed to be paid, but it's not paid yet. So the conditional color is going to be this light red, and for the condition is everything that is status is pending, and the due date is before today. right? So right now you guys can see that nothing is red because there's nothing outstanding yet. We have some pending payments here, but the due date is in the future. But if the due date was before today, so let me change this. You can see now that this is red because it's pending, it's in the past, so it's outstanding, right? So we have this conditional color going on here. So this is one of the reasons why we're doing this as an app page and not just as a database, because we have those kinds of extra features. One other thing that I want to have here is a title bar. So I can have a button to create a new payable. There you go. So when I click on the button, I'm going to create a new payable. There you go. New payable. And I'm going to use the form of the date, the table itself. I'm going to talk about this later. And I also want to have a filter. There you go. So I'm going to call this custom filter, and I'm going to add a flexible filter here, which I'm just going to call filter. The flexible filter basically is a filter that I can use on the go to create a custom filter based on a database, based on a table. So the table that I'm going to base the filter is the payables table, and this is going to filter this. And let me see. I also am going to create a vendor filter. Quick, it's a quick filter, right? So the idea here is that maybe I don't want to use the flexible filter because it might be a little bit slow to set up from the ground up. So I can just use a dedicated filter to create a quick filter. So I'm going to select the type record ID. This allows me to select a record from a table. In this case, it's the vendor database. And this is going to filter the payables table here by the vendor. So I'm going to create this. I could add some other custom filters, right? I'm going to skip this for now, just so we can move on with the other pages. And I'm editing the title bar because the filter was created down here, but I can pin it to the title bar. So I'm going to select it here. And you guys can see that I have here this filter, and it's affecting the things down here, right? And if I wanted to, I could create a custom filter here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for receivables, and just so I don't have to do everything from the ground up, I'm just going to click here on duplicate app. This makes it way faster, right? Because most things are already done here. So this is going to be the receivables part. Receivables, there you go. The table that I'm seeing here, I don't want it to be payables anymore. I want it to be receivables. And all I have to do here is select the fields again. So category, client, due date, payment date, amount, attachments, and status. So I'm going to sort by due date, just like I did with the other one. And I'm just going to, oh, I already have the conditions here. Status equals pay, due date, there you go. I think I have to redo the conditional colors. So I'm going to create the rule again. So everything where due date is before today, I wouldn't have to, because nothing here is pending and is in the past. There you go. Okay. So if I get this one and put it 1 day to the past, yeah, there you go. It's working. Okay. So I'm going to edit the filter. So the flexible filter now is based on the receivables, and it's going to filter this receivables component here. And the vendor, instead of being vendor, it's going to be client. So I'm going to pick a record from the client's database, and I'm going to filter this database here. There you go. And I'm just going to change it. There you go. And I'm going to pull that custom filter up there. There you go. So I have a page now for the receivables as well. So I can select the client. I have to change this title here. It's new payable. I want it to be new receivable. There you go. And now we're just going to create two other pages which are kind of similar to this, but they're going to be client and vendor pages, and they're going to have one extra feature which I think is quite cool. So I'm going to customize this. There you go. And I'm going to create a table component here. For the clients. There you go. So now I have to select the fields. So name, observations, email, phone, and address. I'm going to sort by name alphabetically, so it's a little bit easier to see and find people. I'm going to remove the field icons and grid lines. I won't have any sort of conditional colors here, but one thing that I'm going to do is you can see that I can activate something called show connected records, right? And what this means is, if you remember the structure that we have receivables connected to a client. So a receivable may point to a client with a connection field. And this means that I can now pull the receivables to this database as well. So you can see here that it shows me that receivables is connected here, right? There you go. And I want to be able to see the title of the receivable, description, due date, amount, and attachment, for example, and the category. There you go. So I pulled some information here. So let me show you guys. I haven't saved yet. But one thing that I want to do here is that I want to be able to click on this icon here and see if I have any pending receivables from that client, right? So I'm going to filter by status is pending. And I'm going to sort by due date. And in this case, the more recent things are going to be up top, right? So they're more, they have a higher priority. There you go. So I'm going to click here on save. And you guys can see that if I click here on Andrew, he has one pending receivable, and I can see all the information here. Same thing for Brenda. Brenda has no pending receivables. She already paid all of the receivables, and Charles has one receivable here. So I can have all of this connected information, so it's a little bit easier to see. For example, here, if I have anything to receive from a specific client, right? There you go. And now what I'm going to do is add a title bar. Same thing that I did with the payables and receivables. So I'm going to be able to create a new client here. New client. Oops. And in this case, I'm not going to create a filter because there's not many kinds of fields of that I want to have quick filters here. All I'm going to do is activate this search. So if I needed to search for someone, for example, Brenda, I can just type here and it's going to show the client, right? So now all I want to do is duplicate this app. There you go. Now, finally, I'm going to have the same thing for vendors. So I'm going to click here on the clients table. It's going to be called vendors, and it's going to pull information from the vendors. Name, observations, email, phone, and address. There you go. I'm going to sort by name alphabetically, leave all of the same settings here. And I'm also going to show connected records, but instead of receivables, now it's payables. And I have the title, I have a description, due date, amount, and category. There you go. And like we did before, only things that are pending. So status is pending. And I'm going to sort this by due date. There you go. So same thing. Can just click here and see if I have any payable pending to that specific vendor, right? So now all I have to do is edit this title bar here. So instead of a new client, it's going to be a new vendor. There you go. And that's all there is to it. There you go. Okay, so one thing that I'm going to do now is go back to my finance app. Here it is. And now I'm going to create a top bar. So all of the parts of the finance app, I'm going to cycle between them as tabs here, right? So for the bar color, I'm going to go with the same light mode. I'm going to disable all the assistant shortcuts. I don't want them up here. And now I can just go with payables, receivables, clients, and vendors. And one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to, for the style, I'm going to go with custom icons. And now you can see that I can select specific icons for the tabs, right? So for the finance dashboard, I'm going to use a chart icon for the payables.
And for the top bar, we'll have even more options, probably between today and tomorrow, for customers to just customize their processes.
Exactly. So receivables, clients, and oh, selected the wrong one here, but I can correct this. It's not inventory management, it's vendors. There you go. There you go. So now you can see that I have those tabs here and I can cycle between the pages that I just built, right? So we have a payables tab, we have a receivables tab. They have conditional colors, so I can see anything that is pending and not paid, or for example, anything that is outstanding. I have quick filters up here, and I have the clients and vendors tabs as well. And I can click here to open a client and see if I have any pending receivable. Same thing for vendors, right? So what I'm going to do now is go back to my app and edit the menu. And I'm going to add the finance app, and I'm going to put it down here just below, just under the homepage. So it's looking like this. I have the main menu. I don't have anything yet here on the homepage, just this placeholder, right? We're going to put something here later. For the finance part, I can just click on finance. I have to refresh my screen because this was already. There you go. Where's the there you go. Was my browser. So when you can see here that I have the homepage and there's nothing up top here, but when I click on finance, I have the tabs up here, right? So this is a dashboard that we're going to add some more information, but we have calendars for receivables and payables. And then when we click on payables and receivables, we can create new payables by clicking here, or receivables by clicking here, and the clients and vendors as well. So for a simple finance management part, this is the basic structure. We could keep, we are going to keep making small improvements to this. So this dashboard is going to have more charts, more information. And one thing that I haven't gotten to yet is if I click here on payables, and I click here on new payable, we have this form. This form is the standard form in Jestor, right? It works. It has all of the information, but we can make this a little bit more pleasant to use. So I'm just going to do a quick example here for the payables part, but we're going to do this later in other live streams for the other parts as well. But I can customize the form for the payables. So for example, I can customize the creation form. And instead of having a center window, I'm going to select a right side window. It's a right side panel, right? And I'm going to edit the form. So I'm going to name it new payable. And for description, use this form to submit a new payable. No cover and logo. So I have title, description, due date, and payment date. I'm going to add inline blocks here. So they're right next to each other. I also have category and vendor, which I'm also going to use inline blocks. So they're on the same row, in the same line, right? Then I have amount, attachments, and status is going to be a button, for example. So I'm going to click on save, and I'm just going to change the colors. And just so you guys can see how it looks like, I'm going to click here on save. And now if I go back to the finance app and go to payables, if I click here on new payable, I have this other form, right? So it's a little bit more customized. It's a little bit more efficient with space, right? So I have some fields right next to each other. So I can select a category, for example. I can do services, select here a vendor, due date, payment date. They're right next to each other. So you guys can see that this is a little bit more efficient, right? I'm saving space by customizing my form further, and it looks a little bit nicer because I've customized the colors as well. So that's the general idea, right? We're going to keep customizing this further, but we almost have a complete first, let's say, part of the app, which is the finance part of the app. And this is going to be the core part of our main app, because we're going to start building in the next live streams other parts of the platforms that feed into this part or pull information from this part. So I don't know if in the next live stream we're going to do the CRM, or if we're going to do procurement, but that process is going to pull information from the clients or vendors and then feed into the payables and receivables.
Yes. Basically, the idea is to go and keep building this. Previously, we would just build one example and we would stop. And right now, we are going to just add more and more structure to this so people can understand that they can actually run their entire business if they want. This is the idea here is for to build something for smaller companies, but it also works for large companies, large corporations. Usually, when we talk about large companies, we are going to integrate with other systems, and when we're talking about smaller companies, it's also possible to integrate with other systems, but sometimes if you're using only spreadsheets, this is way better to have a system. And we are going to show you how to build this, the idea behind it. And so if you have any kind of requests or questions, we are going to be back next week building this, adding more structure and showing you how to think about your process and also how to use Jestor. So any questions, requests, anything, just ask. We'll be here, and to get reminders about this kind of live sessions, please subscribe to the channel and send comments if you need some help or anything like that. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Cool. Goodbye.